Host of Q Points, and I wanted to come to you because there are two really important ways that you can support our show. One is by subscribing to it wherever you listen to or watch your podcasts. Q Points is pretty much everywhere. The other thing that you can do is you can visit us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on Podchaser, and you can leave us a star rating. Please rate us 5 stars because you know you love Q Points. And on Apple Podcasts and on Podchaser, you can actually leave us a written review. It's not required, but it really does help to spread the word about the show, and it helps people to discover it as they're looking for new podcasts to listen to. We're always appreciative of you supporting Q Points. We thank you so much for all that you've done for us so far, and enjoy the show.
Good evening and welcome back to another episode of Q Points. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And what's happening, y'all? My name is J. Ray, sometimes known by my government as Johnny Ray Cornegay the Third. What's happening, good people?
As always, Q Points is your safe space for meaningful conversations about Black music and Black creatives. And typically, J. Ray and I start off the show, with a little light banter and just getting to catch up with each other on how things have went. But I mean, clearly there's an elephant in the room. As a nation, we have been traumatized yet again. And of course, we have to acknowledge these babies and educators that lost their lives this week. Again, it wasn't even a full week after the tragedy in Buffalo. And here we have this that took place in a small town, but the results are the same. And I think what is even more devastating to a lot of us is that the fact that these are babies. The median age of these kids is 10 years old. J. Ray, do you remember what you were doing at 10 years old?
So at 10 years old, I was playing, I remember Saturday morning cartoons. I remember eating Frosted Flakes. I remember playing and riding my bike. It was a ton of riding my bike. I was like one of those boys that liked to build ramps so that I could jump on things with my bike. And I broke both wrists, by the way, at different points. Actually, I think if I'm not mistaken, 10 years old was one of the years that I broke a bone. I broke both. So when I was 10 years old, that's what I was doing. I was being a kid. And we did not have to think about this as a reality of our school experience.
Not at all. At 10 years old, I was obsessed with Voltron, Thundercats, and Gem and the Holograms. Obsessed, right? And to your point about not having to worry about these things in school, I specifically remember the one thing, on the one time that something happened when I was in 5th grade. The father of one of my classmates, he was estranged, and was not allowed to see my classmate. So he came looking for him, rattling windows, banging on doors. If anybody that grew up in New York knows that when buildings close down, businesses shut down, they have these metal gates that come down on a chain. And he was rattling all these chains looking for his son and yelling, and they locked all our doors and whatnot. And that might have been the only instance in which we were shocked at school at some behavior. Excuse me, but this man didn't show up with any weapons. Not at all. He was just angry and wanted to see his son. So I can't imagine, and I think you and I and everybody else, all the other Gen Xers, if you ask us about gun drills in school, we don't have any recollection of that at all. We
Mm-mm.
have fire
Fire
drills.
drills all the time. Like you had a fire drill.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of excited about, the fire drill because it broke up the lesson.
Listen, that meant you got to go outside and hang outside for a minute.
Yeah.
And depending on what part of the country you live in, y'all had tornado drills,
Exactly.
and that's
Exactly.
it. But I feel like the adults, the people that are in control, have done such a disservice to these babies. That's all I'm gonna
Absolutely.
say.
No, I wholeheartedly agree, and I'm sorry to cut you off there at
No,
the
you're fine.
end. Um, we, for those folks who can do something, and for our legislators and folks out there who actually can do something about this, y'all are way past time. Like it's way past your time to have handled this issue. And so y'all have to do it. Like this is we are these were children. I'm going to put this picture back up here. We have the picture for those of you who are listening. These are babies. And I look at this and it's just unacceptable. And so yeah, it's time that we do something. And so this is Q points, of course. And one of the things, of course, Sir Daniel and I are very music is the thread that runs through our lives. And so we were both thinking about the songs around when we were 10. So either fourth grade or 10. So I picked a couple of songs that I would have been rocking when I was in fourth grade. I went to Columbus Elementary School in Chester, Pennsylvania. Oh, funny story. My teacher, her name was Miss Eldridge. I wonder where she is. Her daughter's name was Robin. Robin was my first crush, Sir Daniel.
Oh,
Her daughter Robin was my first crush. So Robin was in like college at the time, and
oh,
yeah, she was in like
you had a thing for
college.
older women.
Right. It's popping, whatever. So, yeah, and so I remember Robin on some days when she was out of school, Robin would come and hang out in the class with her mom,
Wow.
and so fond memories of the fourth grade, and so the songs though that I would have been rocking, so I had to go back and look. And I could have picked a lot of stuff, but what I decided to settle on was and for the people in the chat and the people who listen to this afterwards, what songs were your joints when you were in fourth grade? What were your joints? Please let us know. We're dying to know. But for
Or
me,
10. Or
or
10.
10 or 10, fourth grade or 10, like, so yeah, so wherever you were. So for me, because this was like 86, 87, Breakout by Swing Out Sister.
Mm.
Freaking
Ah, yes.
love that song. Sidebar, Swing Out Sisters catalog is one of the coolest catalogs in all of music. Like, just go back and play some Swing Out Sisters. Good stuff. But Breakout by Swing Out Sister and Heavy D's The Overweight Lovers in the House, which was the first time that I remember hearing somebody who was like a big guy, like celebrating being a big guy and being cool. And so, yeah, that was for me. Swing Out Sister, Breakout, and Heavy D and the Boys, The Overweight Lovers in the House would have been my joints.
Definite joints. And I keep forgetting that I'm actually a couple
Yeah.
years older than you. I
Yeah.
keep forgetting. So when I was 10,
Mm-hmm.
it was 85. I was in the 5th grade. My teacher's name was Miss Catherine Jackson. She is no longer with us. She passed away a few years ago. Um, and I attended Hanson Place SDA, Seventh Day Adventist School in Brooklyn, New York, 38 Lafayette, Brooklyn, New York, right next to door to the Brooklyn Academy of Music, which was dope in and of itself. And man, so 5th grade, 85, I was definitely watching shows like Hot Tracks because we didn't have cable, and shows like Kids Incorporated. So I definitely had, I mean, I think it goes without saying, my obsession with Prince continued long after Purple Rain. So by this time, it was the pop life era. So my first song is Raspberry Beret, and of course, the video is bright and colorful. Lots of day glow. My life was day glow back in '85. Hand gloves with the fingers cut out, neon, all of that. So definitely Raspberry Beret. Fun, real quick story about that. I had a cousin who was like a couple years younger than me, and they visited us that summer, and Raspberry Beret was everywhere. Still my joint. And when it came on in the car on the radio, of course, this is my car. I'm singing lead. And here she goes trying to outsing me on Raspberry Beret. And you talk about salty. Every time she opened her mouth, I'll just look at her like, why are you singing my song? But anyway, tales of a 5th grader, only child. My other song that I really, really love, and I think if you follow me, J Ray knows this. I am a Pointer Sisters stan. That's the only way to describe me. I am a Pointer Sisters stan. And by 85, the Pointer Sisters were bona fide pop stars, like mega stars, because of course 84 was the 84 Olympics, and Jump for My Love made that song go huge, was a huge international hit. So by the time 85 rolled around, they dropped a new album. And my favorite joint, of course, is Dare Me. Dare Me is one of them quintessential 80s songs, heavy on the synthesizer, lots of climbing octaves, and a story to be told, and big vibrato, big voices that only the Pointer Sisters can do. But the video, awesome. They're in a boxing gym. They're wearing like tattered clothes. There's a dance battle towards the end. It's like, what more can you ask for? So yes, at the age of 10, those were the songs that were like really giving me life. And to think we tie it back into these babies. We pick this age specifically because we're blessed. We are we're middle aged now.
We are.
We get to have these memories, and it is a travesty that these babies aren't able to have those kind of memories at all. And this is our way of paying tribute to our 10-year-old selves that was allowed to thrive and to live. And we pay homage to these young people that lost their lives this week.
Absolutely. So we have an interesting topic, Sir Daniel,
Yeah.
this week.
Are we pivoting? Is this what we're doing?
This is where we're going to pivot. We're going to pivot on
Okay.
over to the topic. And while y'all are listening, because I see Trey there in the chat. So before we pivot, want to send so much love and genuine thank you to Trey and Wani, who joined us on Sunday for our first Q Points listener feedback session. We learned so much, and I know that I was like, it was beautiful and humbling to have that experience. And so I just want to say thanks to them for one, being consistent listeners, and two, being willing to share their feelings with us about how we can grow the show and do more for all of you. So I wanted to definitely say that. How was Sunday for you, Sir Danny?
Oh, Sunday was amazing. I mean, it was. I enjoyed seeing them, getting to talk to them, and hear their voices, and just getting honest feedback about what we can do to improve the show and to know that what you guys like. I love that even more, knowing what you like and that, okay, we're going to keep that going for you. And so, yes, I echo everything you said, J. Ray. I'm very grateful to Trey and to Wani for holding us down on a Sunday morning when they could have been out brunching and whatnot, but they chose to spend some time with us. And so, yeah, definitely kudos to you guys and thank you. So we're gonna continue with this pivot, but before we do that, J Ray, did you hear that the new hot track? There's a diss record that was dropped earlier this week.
Yo, there was a diss record by the one and only, the vocal Bible herself, Brand New. Remember there was the brand new.
Or B Rocka.
Or B Rocka. I liked B Rocka too. But Brandy responded in excellent fashion. I knew that she would.
Yeah.
To Jack Harlow, of course, not realizing that her and Ray J were siblings. And that was a great diss track. Like, she waxed it. So shout out to Brandy. But as we were thinking about this particular topic, of course, Kipper Jones, friend of Q Points, been here several times. We'll make sure that we include the links to the shows that Kipper has been a part of in the description. But Kipper wrote the song "I Want to Be Down." And one of the things that Kipper has talked about is the fact that, listen, I wrote "I Want to Be Down," and in my mind, that song was going to be for Vanessa Williams, right?
Wait, pause. Mm-hmm. Let them sit with that for a minute.
Yeah.
"I Want to Be Down" was written, produced, and was supposed to be shopped to Vanessa Williams.
Yep.
Who we all love. We love Vanessa Williams.
We do.
But sit with that for a minute.
Yep. It was a real thing. And so I put a link, right. I put a link in the chat where Kipper talks about, that history, right? So so at the time, that song was, of course, produced and Keith Crouch said, hey, this other artist over at Atlantic, they want her to demo the song. Brandy demoed "I Want to Be Down," and the rest is history, So I put the interview in the chat, and we'll put it in the description so folks can read it. But it just got us to thinking, like, when folks sometimes craft songs, they have a model in mind of who that song is for, right? Yeah. And that's where, they tend to go. But sometimes it just doesn't work out like that, and fate takes it in another direction. And there's a lot of songs like that.
There are a lot of songs that we dug up. Some we knew the stories behind, some we didn't. But just sticking with "I Want to Be Down" for a minute, you can kind of, giving Kipper some grace here, you can kind of understand his trepidation with that. Like, I get it. Who is this Brandy person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All we know so far is that she was on Thea.
Mm-hmm.
She was she's a little girl. She's
14
13,
at the time. Yeah.
14 at the time. We don't really know nothing about her. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, as a producer, I want, if I'm crafting a song and I want to shop it and I want it to go big, mm-hmm. I want it to go somebody established.
Absolutely.
And go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and he talks about that in the interview about, like, listen, we just did 2 million on the Comfort Zone. Like, This is our next thing, and so there's a link here about him finishing, I'm sorry, a quote here about him finishing I Want to Be Down, or the lyrics. And he said, so we finished the song. And all this time, I'm thinking, we sold 1 million records with the right stuff. We sold 2 million with the Comfort Zone. We're gonna sell 3 million of this song with
Yeah.
Vanessa like it ain't nothing. Like I was all set on cutting it on Vanessa. Then Keith calls me. The rest is history.
Wow. Imagine that. So, like J Ray said, when we kind of went down a rabbit hole of digging up songs, that were created for somebody else in mind, or may have even been recorded and cut by somebody, but then ended up becoming somebody else's key song. And I think what made me think about it was that I saw a clip on Twitter of speaking of Kipper, another friend of Kipper's,
Mm-hmm.
Penny Ford
Mm-hmm.
was actually singing a song, and the caption read that this was actually the song that was supposed to be Mariah Carey's debut single. And I can't remember the name of the song right now, but everybody was like, yeah, we're kind of glad that it
Right.
wasn't the debut song for Mariah Carey, which is, things like that happen in the recording industry. But you just never know the way songs are workshopped for people and demoed by several different people. Like Martha Wash was the queen of demos,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes her voice stayed on the record even though it was given to somebody else to sing. But that's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show. So another song that I've always heard this. I've heard this for a while. That was written for somebody in mind, but was actually performed by the actual writer of the artist. They didn't intend to sing the song publicly, but Milkshake by Khalees was actually written for Britney Spears. J Ray, can you hear Britney singing
I know
milkshake?
you the
Nah,
things that face
uh,
me.
I'm had milkshake brings out the ice in the eye, and they're like, it's better than yours. I mean, it may have been able to work, but I'm glad Khalees said, you know what, or the record label forced it on her or whatever. But I'm glad she did, because that's one of her signature songs. And hey, Miss exactly, Trey, Miss Bounty in Full can go perform it when she feels like it and still get top dollar
Yeah.
because it's a bop. It was a bop.
And for one, I can see in an alternate universe how Britney Spears would do Milkshake, right? I'm mostly glad that fate intervened in the way that it did, because to your point, Khalees got a chance to ascend to the
Yeah,
level that she deserved. One, she wrote the song, so she still gets that part of the check, and she also gets the recognition for having created what became a cultural phenomenon.
for sure.
And I think I mentioned this to you, but I was listening to the radio. Actually, it's on the radio all the time now. There is a Bounty commercial, of course,
I've
Bounty
heard
in
it.
full. Yep. And where Milkshake is playing, and then so Khalees's voice is also part of that commercial. So even just the fact that that song is now part of this current cultural moment that we're in is key. So I mean, I am glad that they had a person like Britney in mind for the song, because I do think it was able to give it the pop shine that it needed to cross over in the way that it did. Because had they not had that in mind, it might have been a different song. They needed that sort of archetype in mind, I think, to create it.
Yeah, I guess to give Khalees a little pop platform, something to
Hmm.
ride. And it was still, but it still ran heavy in the streets though.
Mm-hmm.
That thing run. I'll never forget one night the DJ played it, kept bringing it back like at least 4 times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it was like at the top of the charts, #1 song in the nation. And to your point, songs like that can change the trajectory of an artist's career. You can go from being uh, an island girl from Barbados, being signed to a huge label like Def Jam, and nobody really having like a nice little hit
Mm-hmm.
on the replay. People, people like it. People are jamming to it. It gets you some burn on the radio. DJs are spinning it. However, when she and the Dream teamed up to do Umbrella, I mean, that took her to a completely different stratosphere.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, Umbrella was not supposed to be for Rihanna. Umbrella was actually was written in mind for Mary J. Blige. One of our favorites, Mary J. Blige. And can you hear Mary singing Umbrella? Ella, Ella,
A,
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 A.
A. No, no. This is the weirdest thing. Once again, when I reflect on it, I'm glad that they had the archetype of like a Mary in mind, because it probably gave it the swag that it needed. Because that was the thing about Umbrella. I didn't get on the Rihanna train until Umbrella. That song was stupid dope.
Yeah.
Stupid dope. The energy was right. Her voice was right on it. It was great. And it created a career. I guess I can hear Mary singing Umbrella. I don't know. It wouldn't have done the same thing. It would not have. It would not have done what it did for Rihanna's career. Oh, real quick, by the way. Sir Daniel is not actually related to Rihanna. I had somebody ask me that this week. It's not a thing. Sir Daniel is not actually related to Rihanna. They just were born in the same place.
J Ray, what are you talking about? Wait, somebody. God bless him. God bless him. I think I would have. Yeah, if I was related to her for real, y'all would know it.
Right.
Like, you would probably get sick of me talking about that.
Right.
Yes. So back to when my little cousin, got this song. No, but seriously, like the verse from Jay, Little Miss Sunshine. Come
Yeah.
on. Come on.
Yeah. I don't know that. I'm curious to know, and I don't know a ton about the history of this. I wonder if it ever even got to Mary's team for them to say no. But yeah, I don't see this as a Mary song.
Well, I'll say this. If you would like to hear more about the history of the song from the Dream's mouth, the Dream was actually featured on an episode of Daniel Smith's Black Girl Songbook, and they talked to the Dream specifically about how he worked with a lot he works with a lot of female artists.
Mm-hmm.
And that does take it. When I think about the men that have written phenomenal songs for women, that's a serious talent to be able to write from a woman's perspective and to be. I mean, it's up to the singer, of course, to embody the song and give it to the public and portray it to the public. But it starts with the pen. It starts with those lyrics. And yeah, check that out. So you can hear him talk directly about the song itself. And when we talk about men writing for women, did y'all know this? So the hit "Crazy" by Gnarls Barkley, which consists of CeeLo Green and
Danger
DJ
Mouse.
Danger Mouse,
Yep.
right? You know the song. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing it in 2007. It was everywhere. It took CeeLo to another song that took somebody to a new heights. How would y'all feel about Crazy being sung by Pussycat Dolls. Would it have had the same impact on you if, it had some hot choreography behind it, some PCD paraphernalia with Nicole Scherzinger, you know, putting her spin on it? I I gagged when I saw that. I was like,
No.
no, like, nah.
No. One shout out to Danger Mouse. That it just produced some new Black Thought stuff. So there's new Black Thought stuff coming in. It's produced by Danger Mouse. But that's weird. I don't hear that. I don't hear it. It would have been a totally different song. I think the thing about Crazy that resonated with people is it was unnerving in kind of the way it was produced and presented. And CeeLo's vocal, while soulful, was also kind of eerie. And I don't think I would be curious to know what a Pussycat Dolls version of Crazy would sound like. It just wouldn't have been the song that became the massive hit that it became. It would have been a different song.
Yeah, because automatically when we think of Pussycat Dolls, we think of buttons, and we think
I like that
of.
song.
Do you know? You know what? Not for nothing. The Pussycat Dolls, PCD, they had bops.
They
They
had
really
bops.
they did. Um, Nicole Scherzinger, for all intents and purposes, is the Pussycat Dolls. That's her vocals all throughout. But to your point about the structure, the energy behind that song, it's not a match. And that's a good look on their part, whoever was on their team and was like, you know what, nice song, but we're gonna pass on that. That doesn't really fit us. Now, Don't Ya fit them, but Don't Ya was kind of snatched off of somebody else's shoulders and given to PCD. You know, I don't know how familiar you all are with who Tori Alamaze is. Tori Alamaze is a phenomenal singer. I know she was. I don't know if she's still here in the Atlanta area, but she was part of the musical fabric of Atlanta for a very long time. I became familiar with her when she was doing BG background vocals for everybody. Outcast, if I'm not mistaken, she's in the Hey Ya video. If I'm not mistaken, um, Erica Badu, like you name it, Joy, Goody Mob, anybody that came through Atlanta, Tori was probably singing backup for them. And of course, like everybody else, she was working on her project, on a solo project or something for herself. And she and CeeLo worked on the song Don't Ya. And I remember specifically when I was working in radio, I remember her coming up to the station because the song was catching on. It was what they call a bullet. It was starting to catch on. It was gaining some heat. The DJs was giving it lots of spins everywhere. I went down to Ybor City in Tampa Bay, in Tampa, Florida, and they were rocking it down there. So the song was supposed to, all intents and purposes, Tori was on her way because it was sexy. It was something that you could still bop to it in the club and whatnot. And it, for whatever reason, it went away, and it went away quickly. But then a few months later, it resurfaced with several non-black women, well, and one black woman.
Right.
Busta Rhymes, doing a rhyme over it, and you can still hear CeeLo's vocals in the background, but Tori's nowhere to be found on the record. And I always thought that was wild. That's one of those, we talk about Martha Wash. That's one of those. Tori Alamaze is one of those Martha Wash like stories that some people know, some people don't know. And I'm sure, if you ask her today, she'll probably be like, "Child, that's old news," or
Right.
she may not even want to talk about stuff like that anymore. But when we talk about Erasure, those are one of those stories that comes to my mind all the time. And how
Yeah.
a song could be, it could be perfect for you. Because the song was dope for her, but powers that be thought it would be better for somebody else.
Man, so I didn't know this story because of course it was popular regionally. Like Tori's version was popular regionally, right? So I
Yes.
wasn't living in Atlanta yet. So I only knew at first the Pussycat Dolls version, and then it was like after that that I was like, "Oh, hold up. Somebody else did this song and it was almost exactly the same from a vocal standpoint. It was just somebody else singing like the vocals. So it was like, oh, and they did like a whole music video. Like there was a whole thing for this particular song. So I was super surprised. I did end up catching a YouTube video where she did talk about this particular song and kind of how that whole thing transpired. But that's so crazy how, to your point, Sir Daniel,
I see what you did there.
you
Go
see,
ahead.
it's so crazy. Crazy. Okay. It's so crazy how a song, like you said, could be perfect for somebody. You're like, oh my God, this is wow, it's catching on. I'm already up at the radio station. This is happening for me. And then it's like, nah. And that kind of power that the industry at that time had, because now it's harder. Now if you are outside of kind of the major label system, you really can't do that, right? Because artists kind of are, especially if you're an independent artist, it's like, yo, I'm gonna do my record.
Right.
But then it was just like the powers that be was like, nope. Different direction for that.
Rights have been sold. You don't own it anymore. See ya.
Bye. That
Bye.
is so definitely sending love to Tori for creating a classic. I mean, for all intents and purposes, the reason why that song got to PCD is because people heard how dope it was. And it's just a crazy, crazy story about how that happened to her.
Yeah. But it's not the only story though.
No.
That's that's what's so wild about it is that labels really are gangster with it.
So, okay, y'all, I mean, if you're listening to this show, y'all probably know this story, but some of you may not. We loved A Marie. That first A Marie record was just like, yay. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, but when one thing dropped, Sir Dan, do you remember how nuts that joint was when that thing dropped? It was 2001. It
No, this was 2006.
was it 2006. That was early. Okay, the first record was like probably like that earlier
2003. It was the
2003.
first record. Then yeah.
Yeah. So it was a different sound. It was dance floor ready. It was all the things you wanted. You had her beautiful vocal over top of this banging like go-go influence beat because she's from DC. And it's like, this is all the things. But they had to sneak and do that.
Yeah, just like you said, that song had everything you need. Like Rich Harrison banging on pots and pans. You know, the intro alone is because God, I can't remember where that sample comes from, but it's crazy. It gets your attention immediately and pulls you in. But yeah, like Jerry was saying, the Sony Columbia Records was like, we want our Puerto Rican princess, the OG Puerto Rican princess,
Right.
Jennifer Lopez, to have this song, and they were going to take it from A. Marie and give it to La Lopez. But to A. Marie's credit, she was like, you know what? I love this song. I worked hard on this song. I'm not giving it up just like that. So just to kind of to go behind the record label's back, they started giving it out to all the
DJs.
which is like, and once a song, the DJs get a hold of something and it goes in rotation and it gets some heat behind it, it was out of there. They had no choice but to put that song, to allow her to put that song out.
Man.
Like, she really had to guerrilla her way to a hit that she wrote.
Recorded. It was baked in with her and Rich together. Like, this is going to be it. This is it. This is the one that's going to take you out of the park. And it almost didn't happen. But the power of DJs being able to, I mean, the song is undeniable. Like, it's easily one of them joints where it's like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Rich and A. Marie just dropped me this joint. Let me play it. You can't. It's the perfect version.
Yeah.
Right? And you know what would have probably happened is it would have ended up in the J-Lo camp, and A. Marie's vocals would have probably stayed on the song. So we would have been listening to A. Marie anyway.
Anyway. But shout out to A. Marie for having the tenacity to go ahead and just do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you just have to, in an industry like the music industry, which is, you know, a gangster as it is, sometimes you got to get gangster back.
And we get one thing. And that whole Touch record, I mean, there are so many joints on that record. And speaks to the power of go-go, which we need to talk about go-go a lot more.
Absolutely.
But that's what made One Thing do its thing.
But you know, One Thing was hot, but I still think That's What I'm Talking About really takes me over the top.
Talking About is it.
No,
like that began. Talking About is it.
It's a call to action. It's like, hey, you dance. Or you're about to get arrested or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And Trey mentions a good point. We actually didn't talk about Get Right, but yes. So Get Right was actually slated to go to Usher and Usher's, and they turned it down. So we got Jennifer Lopez's version of Get Right, which I think is great. Get Right is actually a guilty pleasure of mine. I don't know if you know that, Sir Daniel, but Get Right goes for me. Like, that joint goes for me. So I'm happy that J-Lo actually got that.
It's actually the one J-Lo song that I will play. Like, if I'm doing a set, that's probably, well, I'll take that back. That and maybe Jenny from the Block.
Yeah.
But definitely Get Right because of the Rich Harrison touch. Plain and simple.
Yep.
Because Rich did it. It flows. See, Rich, that era, they made records for DJs to create sets. Like, you could have a whole Rich Harrison set. I know you've heard me do a Rich Harrison set. And it's the ultimate get people on the dance floor. It's real classy to real, you know, you can start off real classy and then you can put your drink down and like put your hands on your knees and really get into it, you know. So yeah, I miss those records. I wish, you know, people were doing records like that more often.
Yes, absolutely. We had an interesting conversation about Mr. Telephone Man as well. which for those of you who don't know, so Mr. Telephone Man was written by Ray Parker Jr. and was actually, so it became a huge hit for New Edition, but actually had this whole other life before New Edition, which is also another interesting thing. So like a year before that came out, there was a whole other artist that recorded Mr. Telephone Man, and I need to pull his name because, Junior Tucker. Did that song like a year before New Edition, and of course became a monster hit. I gotta listen to the Junior Tucker version. I've never heard that version. I don't know what the difference is, but I'm curious to know how similar it is to the New Edition version of the song.
I'm pretty. we gotta, man. So this is something that we've been threatening to do. Is to do like a off YouTube, off Facebook, kind of listening to songs or videos, and we talk about them because on these platforms they might silence me saying this right now. That's how sensitive the algorithms are. But yeah, I think that would be so dope if we could get to listen to it and get our reactions, on the
Yes.
show.
So let's not listen. So I'm not going to listen. I ain't never heard it. We're
Yeah,
going to
me
save
neither.
that. Do y'all want to watch that? Let us know. Drop it in the chat, drop it in the description, wherever you comments, wherever you check it out. But if y'all would want to check that out, and all you would have to do is just become a Q Points Insider on our website. It's very simple. And you might get a chance to get us doing some other stuff. You know?
Fun stuff.
Right.
Absolutely. So I think this, as usual, I like conversations like this because it's just fun. It's
Mm-hmm.
just fun knowing that did you know conversations without being, you know, a know it all. I love those kinds of things.
Yeah, like this is one of those times that we really got a chance to just kind of play around, see what's up, and talk about some interesting songs. Thanks, Trey. Trey will watch. Talk about some interesting songs and facts that were just fascinating. So,
Yeah.
couple of things. Make sure that you do visit our website. Become a Q Points Insider. It's very easy to do. Make sure that you go on over to Apple Podcasts and follow us there, and make sure that you leave us a review. Also, you can leave us a rating and review over on Podchaser. It truly does help to spread the word about the show because the Podchaser algorithm really does, like, it spreads out. I'm getting this in the camera. It spreads out and helps us to helps other people to discover the show. And also, if you are joining us anywhere outside of YouTube, make sure you go over onto YouTube and subscribe and hit the little bell notification. And I'm gonna just throw this in there. Follow DJ Sir Daniel on Mixcloud. Links in the
Please do.
chat.
Please do. Now there won't be a show this weekend. I, like you, wants to enjoy the holiday weekend. So there won't be a show this weekend. I'm not going to be a rock steady this weekend. You know, we need
We
breaks,
do.
and I hope y'all are taking a break. And especially now, we need to, if you can be with people you love and be with your family, a holiday weekend like this is as good a time as any to do that. So hopefully you do it and you do it safely, and we get to see you next time.
Absolutely, y'all. It's been fun. Thank y'all for hanging out with us on this week's Q Points.
Absolutely. And J Ray, what do I always say? In this life, you have a choice. You can either pick up the needle or you can let the record play. I'm DJ Sir Daniel.
My name is J Ray, y'all. Peace.
Peace. Have a good night.